Can you gain weight on a low carb or carnivore diet? The answer is, of course you can. Although we know the calories in, calories out model or thermogenics, although we know those concepts are somewhat accurate, they do apply to the body, they're just not very useful. If we go into caloric restriction, first of all, we're miserable, we have cravings, and we also challenge the body in a way where instead of burning fat, we start to perhaps burn muscle. And that is because we stress out the body and we trigger a production of sugar called gluconeogenesis, right? Gluco means sugar, neo means new, genesis means creation. And this production occurs via stress hormones from the adrenal glands, which is not something we want to be stressing, right? We're trying to calm down our adrenal glands. So we're producing stress hormones that go to the liver, and now we're making sugar. And so this is something that we want to avoid. So if we're just lowering our calories and the body's not really fat adapted, it's really not burning fat the way we want it to efficiently, well, it's going to be counterproductive. That's why lowered carbohydrate diets, what they do is they first get the body to shift gears. Think of it like we're a broken Toyota Prius. We should be going back and forth between carbohydrates, which turn into sugars in the blood, your blood glucose levels. So we're going back and forth between those sugars, which are very fast acting, and fats as fuel, which are very slow burning but more efficient. So if you run up a hill, you're going to burn sugar. It doesn't matter if you're on a zero carbohydrate diet, your body will even make it, as we just discussed, or pull it from the liver, which is called glycogenolysis. You're just freeing up whatever reserves of stored carbohydrates that you have. But either way, if you need fast-acting fuel, your body's going to get it. Keep in mind that carbohydrates are not an essential nutrient for the very reason we just covered, is that your body can indeed make it. You won't die without carbohydrates in the diet. However, internally, your body's going to use them as it needs when you're in a state of high stress or high energy output requirement. And that might be useful for sports-specific athletes. I owned a gym for 20 years before getting into medicine, and I've trained a lot of athletes. And if somebody's a sprinter or a mountain biker where their competitions are highly intense and they don't last very long, then a body that is consuming good amounts of carbohydrates and sugars, even fast-acting sugars, right? You're doing sugar chews as you're going through your day for your event. But that's actually going to be better for the body. The body knows its sugars, it's used to burning sugars, and it's very fast-acting fuel. Now, different would be most of us who may want to manage our weight, or the endurance athlete where you're not super intense, but you're trying to last a long time, right? Like the marathon runner, perhaps, or something like that. So, but when it comes down to weight loss, if our body is stuck in a sugar burning mode, which is very common, we are craving carbohydrates, we're overreacting to them, right? It's not even just that we're eating too many carbohydrates, the body's not handling them normally. We're overreacting to them, and then that causes us to gain weight, and then we're even manufacturing carbohydrates to get through the rest of the day, right? Craving carbs, overreacting to them, and then making them. That's the broken Toyota Prius. Whereas we want to be able to go back and forth between carbohydrates inside our system, sugars as a fuel, and fats. And once we lower the carbohydrates in the diet, if we don't do it too drastically, the body starts to fire up its insulin receptors that have started to slow down because we had too many carbohydrates perhaps in the diet, and it starts to use them a little bit more efficiently. So we reverse some of those pre-diabetic or carbohydrate reactive qualities in the body, and that could be great. That still doesn't mean we're losing weight. A lot of people do lose weight at this point. But now that we're fat burning, now we actually have to burn more fuel because fat burns so slow. So if we are now fat burning and we continue to eat a lot of food, we're going to still be consuming a lot of overall calories. Protein, fat, alcohol, even if it's a low carb alcohol like a whiskey, all these things have tremendous amounts of calories. And the point of a lowered carbohydrate diet, or what can lead to a zero carbohydrate diet, or in the Reset Food Plan, we use that as meat fasting days so that we don't stay there. The carnivore crowd stays on that long term, that's fine. But for most of our purposes, we can go low carb and then just use those meat fasting days to really accentuate that therapeutic shift in how our body is managing fuels. So we get to where we're fat burning and you'll notice your cravings are reduced, your sleep is better, because you got to burn fat to have good healthy sleep. If you're still stuck as a broken Toyota Prius, then you're crashing in the middle of the night. Your body's running out of sugar and it's making sugar through the liver in the middle of the night. So that's why sleep is often disrupted, or you're waking up to urinate because you might be still flooding your blood vessels with sugars that are irritating it, so it's trying to pee out the sugars. So you lower the carbohydrates, all of that improves. You're no longer hangry. If you skip a meal, you're in that fat burning zone. If you're motivated enough, you can even get those ketone strips and you can urinate on them. Of course, there's a breath test, there's the blood test, there's a few ways to do it. Urinating on the ketone strip is not the most accurate, but for this purpose, it will tell you if you are fat burning. Once you're fat burning, you'll see the relationship to the reduction of cravings very clearly. Once you're in that zone, now we want to burn more fat. Now it is safe to do the intermittent fasting. See, if you're still a broken Toyota Prius, and you go to do intermittent fasting, or you skip a meal, you have some partial day eating schedule, your body might make sugar, as we described, to get through the fast. And that would be counterproductive and stressful on the adrenal glands. Once you're fat burning, now you can start to introduce those partial day eating patterns and even work up to a full day fast. And this can be done a couple times a week. A couple non-consecutive days is really what we're at with Reset Food Plan Phase 3. Phase 3 is where we introduce some of that fasting, and everything is built slowly and steadily. However, anybody listening to this can start to do that as long as you're getting your body fat burning first and then slowly moving into the fasting time periods. And now that the body is fat burning, it's a good idea to increase the exercise. Exercise is going to burn fuel. If you're that broken Toyota Prius, chances are you go to work out and your body's burning sugar to get through the workout. It's like, hey, let's just fire up those adrenal glands and make sugar to get through this. And so you decide to work out every day, all the time, and that just isn't making a dent because your body's still stuck in that broken Toyota Prius switch. So you go low carb and you get to where your signs and symptoms, cravings are down, sleep is good, and now you know you're fat burning. You can even check it, like we just said, on the ketone strips. And then now you can start training. Now you can start doing some exercise. Keep in mind that if you train intensely, this would be like a spin class where you're spinning as fast as you can for 45 minutes. That's the fast-acting fuel requirement. Your body's going to need sugar. You're going to make sugar. And it's counterproductive for somebody who's trying to get the body used to being in that fat-burning state. Because remember, you were a broken Toyota Prius. Your body was overreacting to sugars and carbs. And so we're trying to put less mileage on that road, if you can imagine that. We're trying to spend more time in the fat-burning zone, not just to burn body fat, but to fix the whole overreaction and get the body back to being fat adapted, like a healthy Toyota Prius. So now you go to exercise, you really don't want intense exercise. You want to have low intensity, long duration, which is extremely boring, and it still doesn't burn a lot of fat. I'm going to do another video just on that topic, but just keep in mind that if you were to once a week do like a longer time period of low intensity, long duration, for example, a hike, You go for a long hike and you spend 2, 3, 4 hours even one day a week, but your body is fat burning. It actually changes your metabolism for the rest of the week very clearly because you're putting a lot of mileage on a fat burning system. It's fat burning. You increased the demand for fuel, but there's no high stress. And so your body says, I got this. Let's just burn some fat. And for that reason, you may choose to do those low intensity, long duration exercises in a fasted state. Just take a snack or something in case you feel bad if you're new to this. But you do it in a fasted state. Your body's like, let's just burn fat to get through this. And it heals that efficiency of fat burning for the rest of the week. We look at food not just as food in or out, calories in or out, but also not just macronutrients in or out, right? It's also how the body starts to overreact to certain foods, and that's what we're trying to repair here. The other types of exercises that people do very well when they're trying to be in the fat burning state, weight training, you're not really pushing on the adrenals, you're definitely burning fuel, and you're also stimulating your muscles. It's like you're firing up the engine, which is going to add to your metabolic rate throughout the rest of the week. Other styles of training, which are low intensity as far as the adrenals are concerned, but they're still highly effective, yoga, Pilates. And then there's also the high intensity interval training or Tabata training. This is all adrenal gland on. You're kind of doing weights or push-ups and sit-ups, then jumping jacks, and everything happens in a sequence very rapidly with maybe a few rest periods, but it gets the heart rate up. So it would be adrenal gland on. Something that we wouldn't want to do. However, these training sessions are typically 8 to 12 minutes, which is actually very acceptable. You're not really burning yourself to a crisp. You're not pushing yourself into the sugar zone for too long of a period of time, and you're getting all the muscles stimulated. So this is a fantastic way to move the body and get everything done and stimulate the muscles in a short amount of time. If those high intensity interval training sessions start to creep up in the amount of time, like they're getting to like 15, 20 minutes or longer, that's a risk that you're spending a little bit too much time in the adrenal gland zone and the stress hormone zone and the sugar production zone. Also, something to consider is we hear a lot of people talking about dietary strategies and low carb or eating meat only, and it's as if they're using diet alone to treat their whole metabolic problem. Whereas we know that there are reasons why we have holistic care, right? We're looking for other causes. For example, if there's a subclinical thyroid issue, if there is systemic inflammatory response going on, then those things, those elements in the body are going to be driving a metabolic reaction. We want to treat those conditions at the same time as diet. And a lot of times we hear of videos and people talking about the diet doing the entire thing. Well, a diet is not going to take care of blood flow abnormalities. You can't eat more meat and less grain to fix a blood stasis or impairment to circulation problem, which can be causing inflammation, which can be making the blood vessels inflamed, which can be driving up insulin. You also aren't going to have a great success in treating an infection of the GI tract, which can be driving leaky gut concepts and congesting the liver. All of that is something that needs to be treated alongside of a dietary change. Keep that in mind. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. More to come.